on this episode of In the Rack podcast?
Because we're gonna ramble a little bit today. We did put a poll out yesterday, and that poll was asking people what they want to hear. You know, we are always like, hey, tell us what you want to hear. We always get questions from patients, and they're just like, it'd be nice if you talked about this. So I think we're gonna make one of those times today, and it is 6:19.
What you got? Welcome to In the Rack podcast, where we provide you with a practical framework for breaking PRs in all facets of health and wellness. We are just a couple of bros giving you the simple hows in a world of complex whats. No filters, no scripts, no rules, just straight talk.
Talk to him.
Now, let's get into the rack with your hosts, Dr. Chad and Dr. Nick.
All right, everyone, welcome to In the Rack podcast live. We are doing this live today. I know this is the first time we've done this, so
it is. It's only right down here for it too.
Bear with us because I forgot the SD card again. I do that shit every single time. So
hey.
I know.
Dude, Mother's Day is coming up. Your mom doesn't want you swearing. That's her one. That's her one wish.
In respect from my mother on Mother's Day, I will try to keep it PC as much as I can. But
Good luck.
No promises yet. No promises.
Good luck.
So today, yes, we have a live In the Rack podcast episode. We've got Nick. We got Hayden, and this is I want to say this is probably the second episode that we've had where it's been all three of us.
So it's the second it's all been all three of us.
Yeah,
there was one more where Krista was in.
Yep. So I'm stoked about that. So I'm stoked Chris is not here too. Yeah. That's not what I meant. Kidding, Hayden. I'm stoked to have a podcast with us three because we're gonna ramble a little bit today. We did put a poll out yesterday, and that poll was asking people what they want to hear. We are always like, hey, tell us what you want to hear. We always get questions from patients, and they're just like, it'd be nice if you talked about this. So I think we're going to make one of those times today. And it is 6:19 on the Eastern Standard Time. So if you're watching this on the West Side,
we grind. Grind.
That's right. This is late for me, so I'm going to be powered by Noble Beverages to see if it'll get me through this hour because this heater move right there. This is not the latest for me, but it is late nonetheless.
It's
so
the latest coffee for you.
It is the latest coffee for me. We'll see what happens there. I might have to up my melatonin
green streak
tonight.
on the Whoop is going to be thrown.
It's still going to be good. It's still going to be good. So I want to talk about a few things first. The first thing I do want to talk about before we get into these questions is we have a program coming up for kids. And that is a program that for the kids. And you have to say for the kids.
I
know.
It sounded a little weird when it first came out.
No. Yeah, for the kids. It's for the kids.
No, I get it.
It's for the kids that play sports in the area.
Yeah.
We're trying to give back to the community as much as we can. And that is the athletic development program that's going to be headed by my man Hayden over here.
That's
so
right.
Hayden's going to talk a little bit about that. But that is something that we're going to be putting out next month. So we're trying to really pump this thing up because one of the biggest things that we find with athletes nowadays is they have a great off-season program, but once we hit in season, it's like training just goes out the window. Like what happens to the training programs and training, plans and conditioning and everything in season. And we're kind of seeing almost like an increase in prevalence of injury with these kids during the season because they're not staying on top of their shit. I mean, stuff. Sorry, Mom. So it's one of those things that we are really pushing in the community, and we want the parents as well as the kids and everybody to know how important that actually is to stay on top of. Would you agree, Hayden?
I absolutely agree, and I think that's pretty much why we're starting this.
Yeah.
And we had all gone to a sports performance seminar at Endicott a couple months back, and the UConn's women's strength and conditioning coach came on, and she had said that she's seeing an increased prevalence of injury for incoming athletes. And I know that's at the college level, but we're also seeing that here in high school level. Yeah, we see a lot of athletes out of season, but we're seeing athletes in season now who come to us with injuries. And one of the questions we always ask them is, well, what are you doing for strength training right now? And they always kind of say, well, we're not doing too much. We kind of stop strength training in season. And I think that's what we can bring to the community in terms of getting them back on track, because strength training in season is equally as important, if not more important, than off-season training.
Absolutely.
And I think it just needs to be dosed and structured appropriately. That way they're not feeling stressed out by, I got to go to the gym today and I got to do X, Y, and Z, where it really doesn't need to be super strenuous in season. But it is necessary.
Yeah. So in terms of the program itself, who is this program going to be catered towards?
It's going to be catered towards middle school and high school athletes, even collegiate athletes who come back home and see us, of any sport. Doesn't just need to be a particular sport. The plan is to get all these kids in here at certain times we're allotting throughout the day for them to come in, follow a strength training program that's fairly generalized, but a solid athlete development program doesn't need to be specific to every sport, right? It just needs to be specific towards improving certain variables that we can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like that we touched upon the middle school athletes, because we're also seeing a lot more injuries in that age group, which is a very new thing as well. We're seeing not just the acute things, ankle sprains, things like that, but back pain in some of these middle school athletes, which is alarming to say the least. So yeah, definitely want some of the younger people in there. It will not stunt your kids' growth. There's still people who think that strength training, lifting weights will stunt their
right.
child's
And I
growth.
think one of the things that we're going to highlight in that program too is just improving their movement quality and their ability to hop, skip, run, jump, all those types of things, where it doesn't need to be like, we're not going to do heavy squat, we're not going to heavy deadlift, right? It's just teaching these kids appropriate movement mechanics so that way they can better move on the field in a safer way and a more controlled way. Even though sports are super uncontrolled, at least we can teach them how to manage the stress of those sports.
For sure. And how many kids do you expect to have in like a group? Like if they're going to be multiple kids, like are there going to be multiple groups? Like what's your plan there?
Yeah, so it's going to be, the plan is to have a middle school group for that age, and then also a high school group. Middle school will come in at one time, high school will come in at another time, but we're looking for 10 plus per group. And I think Nick and I will be pretty much running those groups. We have plenty of space for it. It'll be structured that way. Nick has a portion of them, I have a portion of them, and they just get in here and that'll be the plan.
Got it. I love it. And it's going to be summer. So not only do we have a great facility inside with turf, but we also have availability outside. Yep. We have grass. It's not a lot of grass, but we have
parking spaces.
But it's plenty of room to do whatever we need to do and for the demands of the sport.
Yeah, with everything we have, we can get a lot done in that time period. That's truly going to benefit these athletes.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add to the athletic development program?
Nah, Hayden hit the
I think so.
There.
I think he did.
Good.
It's going to be great, and like it's something that we just want. Like I have a passion for seeing things through, right? Like I like watching these kids grow. Like it'll be awesome to have kids come in at the youngest middle school age, right? So these 5th, 6th, 7th, 7th, and 8th graders, right? Seeing a 6th grader move to 8th grade, then move into high school, and watching them grow through a program is going to be awesome. I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most, is just seeing the progression of these kids and seeing them come in and be happy to train, right? It's not going to be like, it's going to be a fun environment. Like I think that's another thing to add into it, right? Like it's going to be fun for the kids to have a group of people to grow through sport with. Like I think it's just a great way to get the community involved.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, tonight we were supposed to actually have a workshop with Karen Fernandez, and it was going to be a good one, and we had to cancel last second. And we were just
postpone.
Like,
we'll still have
postpone.
it, but
postpone.
Yeah.
And we were like, man, what could we do? I was like, let's call an audible here. Let's do a little podcast. Let's do a little live. We're going to have a workshop anyway, so let's take advantage of the time, So here we are. So athletic development program is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. You will expect to see some stuff in our newsletters if you are subscribed to the newsletter about more information regarding the athletic development program. You will also probably hear about it because we are going to be meeting with Newburyport school systems as well. So we're going to get them involved. We're already involved with Pentucket. So, the word is going to be spreading for sure. So we're excited about that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can either email us at frontdesk@proformptma.com. You can DM us. That's fine too. If you want more information on the athletic development program. Cool.
Yep.
I think we covered that in a nutshell.
Yeah. And all you parents who have kids from U13, 15, Monday night lacrosse, I'll be over there on Monday night. Be working with the kids a little bit. So if you got kids in that program, I'll see you then.
Yeah. All right, cool. You want to get to some questions, man?
On to the questions.
I mean, people don't. They just want to hear about the questions.
Yeah, they want the answers.
Well, that's true.
We'll give them the secrets.
That's true. And we got several questions, and we might throw some other ones in there too.
Yeah, we got a lot of would you rather's.
Yeah. Nick has a lot of would you rather's.
A lot of date, marry, kills, those types of questions.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Ones.
I think we'll start it off with my man Brad, our man Brad, Brad Bob, as we like to call him. He's the guy, and he's been a big supporter for us, but he's also been a big advocate for his own health recently. And he's asked the question about the feet, right, which we love talking about all day long, and he wants to talk about the importance of the footwear, Vivo in particular, because he's a Vivo guy, and we are all Vivo guys as well, and we dabble in other companies too, and I'm sure we'll touch on that, but. Nick, you're the foot guy. Enlighten us on the feet.
How much time do we have?
Let's keep it to like 5 to 10 minutes.
So let's just start off by talking about the foot. The foot is a very, very complex area of the body, and that's why I think a lot of people in the healthcare industry shy away from it. 26 bones, 33 joints in each foot, right? So where there is a joint, there should be some level of movement. So we need movement through all those things. Our body evolved this way because our feet were traversing variable terrain, rocks, roots, sand, all that kind of stuff. So yes, modern world, we don't have that. We're on man-made surfaces a large portion of the time. When you play a sport, a lot of times the fields are turf now, right? So they're largely flat. Yeah, there's some nuance to that, but you play on a court, it's flat. So a lot of these sports and things are being played on man-made surfaces, which is fine. So yes, the footwear will likely need to change for the performance perspective, but we harp on the in-between footwear a lot of times with people, that they need to spend more time in something that allows your foot to function the way the foot is meant to function. So something that has less of a sole to it. It's not quite as thick of a sole, something that you can get closer to the ground. You can feel the ground still inside that shoe. You're not just feeling a really thick, chunky, cushiony, cloud-like sole. And then, something that ideally for the in-between shoes doesn't have this positive heel. If you take a positive heel, it's been shown to, provide an advantage for something like running mechanics, shaving some time off your race times and things like that. That's great, but you shouldn't be wearing that shoe all the time, right? We see a lot of people in here come in and, Brooks, things like that they wear 12 plus hours a day. That's not the best thing for your foot, right? If you were running in that shoe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, however long you're running, okay, that's fine. But then we want to get out of that shoe and get into something that's better for your foot. As it relates to training in the weight room, when we're talking squats, lunges, deadlifts, we want to be able to feel the ground, right? We don't want to be on something that's very cloud-like where we're just kind of all over the place moving around. You want to be able to root to the ground. Best way to do that would be barefoot. But there are shoe options that are more in the what I refer to as minimalists that would allow you to do that as well, still with the shoe on if you're going to a public gym or something like that. But I can't talk about feet and not talk about every human should be able to be barefoot, right? We should be able to tolerate barefoot. We should be able to tolerate a variety of surfaces. You shouldn't just be able to go through your hardwood house and then you go outside and it's like, ooh, that it hurts to walk on the soil, or it hurts to walk on the grass, or it hurts to walk on my driveway. That is an indication that your feet have become overly sensitive. Feet should not be that sensitive. So people need to restore some of that ability, and a great way to do that, and it's been shown in studies, is have more of a minimalist shoe for the vast majority of the time, right? So it's a very nuanced thing. And I know a couple years ago we had done a podcast on feet and footwear, and we went all in minimalist, and we kind of bashed everything else. And I've definitely come around to more of like an in-between, where we need to think of things on a spectrum. And it's like, yeah, for your performance footwear, you may need to compromise, right? But when it's our everyday footwear, our in-between, like I mentioned before, that's where we want to have more human footwear that allows your foot to function like a human foot should function.
Yeah, because how many patients do we hear that, they wear their shoes all day, they go home, they take their shoes off, and then put like either other shoes on in their home, or put sandals on, or slippers.
It's actually astonishing how many patients we've had that are like, oh no, I don't take my shoes off till I get into bed. Like once I sit in my bed, that's the first time I take footwear off. That's mind blowing to me that like people go through that, and part of that has been recommended by podiatrists, which is absolutely not only wrong, but it is a form of malpractice,
He's going there.
It's not
Let's
as
go.
it's not as there's levels of malpractice. It's not as bad of malpractice
Yes,
as a
that's right.
surgeon messing up.
I understand.
But it's still
Yes.
it's creating long-term problems for that individual that
Agreed.
in order to, if that's been going on for decade or more, it's going to take time to reverse that, to adapt it back to the human foot, right? So
Absolutely.
and that's a problem for people that they're seeing podiatrists for long periods of time, and then all of a sudden they come see us and it's been years of this, and now we have to do a lot more work to try to undo some of that likely would not have happened if they weren't given these recommendations to just keep shoes on all the time. Your feet are broken, your feet are messed up, your feet are fragile, because that's a huge problem we have. I say it all the time, the two areas we have, the feet and the low back, our society, our healthcare system just views those as like fragile, weak, they're meant to break down. Humans are just flawed organisms that just have really bad low backs and feet, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the way the system kind of views those things, and that's just not the case. That's just the case we've, treated them and represented them, and that creates a part of the problem too. But the feet are strong, robust. They are the feet can take a beating. Like that's just, they certainly can. And for someone to get to the point where now the feet are having problems and hurting and things like that, that means they've been taking, or they number one, they've lost their exposure to taking beatings, but now they're so sensitive that they can't even take what most of our ancestors' feet would laugh at.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about transitions, and we don't have to go deep into that, but we are a big fan of ultra shoes. Are a good alternative to transitioning from, say, like a Hoka or something like that that's got max cushion.
Yeah.
Because now you're exposing yourself to that zero drop, as well as to that wider toe box, which can actually help you, like you said, kind of grip that ground and feel the ground, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a great option as well. And I am actually a proponent of people using squat shoes. I recently got the TYR lifters, the L1 lifters. Yeah. And yes, they are lifted, of course. So there's going to be a heel toe drop there. It
serves the purpose.
It serves the purpose. Yeah. But the toe box is wider, and it's meant like that on purpose so that you can actually feel the ground better and have a better foundation with the ground. Yeah. So I love those lifters. So if anybody is looking for a set of lifters, I would highly recommend those. TYR actually just came out with their new barefoot shoes too, which are actually very, very similar to the Vivos. I have them as well,
And lifters are a perfect example of context dependent, because I don't know of a single person who wears lifters for anything other than lifting.
That's right.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
What we do with the other shoes, if a shoe is in the running shoe category, right? Like, there's people out there wearing running shoes because they're super comfortable, right? So they wear them all the time.
That's great.
All the time. We got Hayden's sister-in-law works for UFOs, right?
Yep.
And UFOs, their market, they started their company because it's a recovery shoe. It's a recovery piece of footwear that you put on after a race, after a hard training session, for that period of time to offload your foot after you just put your foot through a lot of stress and force and work. So it serves a purpose, but now people wear the UFOs 24/7 because they feel good, right? And that's not what they were intended for. And it's a hard thing for a company like UFOs. Chad's going to get mad because I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. But the company is in the market of making money. The business needs to stay a business, so they need to make money.
Of course.
So if people are buying it, they're going to keep making it and keep selling it, right? So it's not, you can't get, you can get mad at the company, but you also can't a little bit because they need to make some money.
No.
But yeah, so with the footwear, and the context is everything. Before someone gets mad, on Instagram about like, but what about if someone's got this specific case of Achilles tendonitis? But yes, they should probably have a heel toe drop if they have a flared up Achilles, right? For the period of time.
Or what if I have flat feet?
We need to then work that heel back down. You can't stay in that positive heel forever. It'd be the same thing as just being downhill.
One of the things I'm seeing a ton too is like people who are in that heel toe drop all the time. It's a tough reversal. It's really hard to take them out of that.
And you got to work down. If you've been in, if you're someone out there who's been in Brooks for years and you're like, oh, I love Brooks. I've been wearing these. Brooks on average is like 10 to 12 millimeters on the drop. So if you've been in that shoe, consistently, 7 days a week for a long time, you're not going to want to go to zero drop right away. That would kind of be a silly move. That'd be like never benching before and then going to the gym with Chad and trying to bench with him. That's what that would be like. It'd be silly.
Totally.
So you would want to drop down to 6 to 8 millimeters first for a few months, boom, and then kind of drop down somewhere, the 3 to 5, 3 to 6, and then get down to 0 drop. So it does take some time.
But I'll tell you, once you get down there, it's hard to go back.
It is.
Because when you put one of those older shoes back on, you're like, damn, I can't believe I was wearing these for so long.
And it's worth it. It's worth it. It really is.
I even see that right now because when I'm running, I'm in a shoe that has a significant heel to toe drop. I think I'm wearing an 8 millimeter heel to toe drop. But the minute I step out of it, I'm like, like 5
Wild,
out
right?
of it, I'm back. I needed my feet back on the floor.
Yeah. And that's a good example too. Like Hayden's training for a marathon right now. He has a shoe that's 8 millimeter drop, and he's training like in terms of time. Like you're running 6 days a week right now? So how much time would that equate to right now in a week? Like actual time?
Probably 5 hours.
5 hours. Out of you're up about 16 a day.
Yep.
You're at 16 times 7. I don't even know right now. 7.
Yeah, you're going to ask you about
106, something like that. Over 100 hours. So 5 hours. Out of over 100. So a very small fraction of time, right? Like that he's in those shoes. So, but people are spending all of their 100 hours, 100 plus hours in that type of shoe sometimes. And then that's when we have to really tread slowly coming out of that for sure.
Cool. All right. Hope that answered your question, Brad.
Yeah. We can talk more, Brad.
Yeah. Brad knows. Brad knows how to get a hold of us. Brad also knows the answer to that.
I know.
So he's
probably asking for
some
others.
His
Clients.
Yeah, of course.
Smart man.
He is a smart man. All right, we got another question.
New businessman too. Shout out Brad Power Fitness. Go see him. He's got that deal going on right now.
That's right. That's right.
Three sessions, $3 I think it is. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. We had him on the podcast recently. Yeah. We wouldn't have anybody on the podcast that we wouldn't recommend ourselves.
Yeah, he's good.
Yes.
He trains out of Vanguard clubs. So if you're a member there or anything like that, or you are looking for a trainer like that, then go see him.
He's great.
Hit him up.
All right, next question comes from another patient that we have. I'm not going to mention his name though, because I don't know how he feels about it. I know Brad's cool with it. So this is one of your patients, and he asked, losing weight after 40 and getting back that lost athleticism. So I know none of us here are over 40. I'm close, but I will say, I'll start off the conversation because I can't speak to the athleticism part. I'll talk about that. Nick can talk about that. But I will say in terms of like losing the weight, that's a category I can jive with. And I would say that pretty much whatever you did at 30, the principles are the same at 40.
Yeah.
Whatever you did at 20, the principles are the same at 40. Now, may you need to be a little bit more regimented? Probably, you know, and maybe other things have happened in the last 10 to 15 years where you have to adjust for, right? But everything is still the same. Nutrition stays the same. Activity stays the same. Training stays the same. Just because we're older doesn't mean anything. And Nick, Hayden, we've all had this conversation about age, right? Like that whole AGE diagnosis is kind of crazy where people come in and say, oh, well, yep, it's because I'm older, right? Like I have arthritis because I'm old, or I'm sore because I'm old, or I can't gain muscle because I'm old, and all that stuff is a complete bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So we just kind of have to get over that whole age factor and just realize that, it's a routine. It's something that we have to get back into, right?
And age is always a factor to be considered. No animal is meant to live forever. So age is always a factor with any animal on planet Earth, and it's always part of the equation, but it's never the root cause of anything. And that's what Chad's referring to. Our system, our society, our healthcare system. It has this tendency to be like, oh, you're just older now, so that's why that happens, and that's not an answer. So as you get older, in terms of something like weight loss, athleticism, like weight loss, it's going to probably happen a little slower than when you were younger. Like, metabolism slows down a little bit. Like you're fighting this more of an uphill battle. Some people say after 30, some people say after 40. We just know as you get older, you lose muscle at a faster rate. So you need to be doing something to either maintain or gain it, right? So you typically have to be a little bit more strategic with that. So I was having this conversation with someone the other day. It's like your body is just going through all the time through life. Like it breaks down throughout the day, and then it builds back up when you sleep, and it breaks down, right? Bones, muscles, tendons, all that kind of stuff. As you get, like when you're younger, what allows you to grow, right? You start life really small, and then you just get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? What allows throughout growth that to happen is that you build up faster than you break down, right? as we get to adulthood, then it starts to go the other way, that we get to the peak of the mountain and then we start to gradually go down, where now the breakdown is happening at a faster rate. So we need to, be prioritizing rest recovery a little bit more as we get older. We need to be prioritizing, the balance of everything, where we're certainly prioritizing strength training, but we need to make sure, cardiovascularly, we're still at an adequate fitness level. We're maintaining flexibility. We're maintaining power. That's a huge one throughout age. Mm-hmm. And that relates to the athleticism question, where it's like most people, after they get to a certain point, they stop moving fast. That would be one of my biggest recommendations to anybody throughout the lifespan. Maintain the ability to move fast. That could be, sprinting, medicine balls, kettlebells, Olympic lifts, if that's what you're into, like those types of things. Keep them in. You don't have to Olympic lift the same weights you did when you were younger. You don't have to sprint at the same speed you did. It's all relative, but still having that intent to move with power and speed and force, I think is a huge part of the athletic equation. One thing I will say with the losing weight piece as you get older, we live in a modern world. I talk about this all the time now with my functional medicine side of stuff. We are inundated with environmental toxins, and your body stores those in fat cells. So if you are having a hard time losing weight, you need to address the toxicity in your life. That is something I wholeheartedly believe to be true at this point, and it is a real thing. Your fat cells store those toxins, and if we are continuing to take in toxins, we don't have time or the resources to get the stuff out that's already in there. So your body keeps storing it. You will have a hard time getting rid of those cells that are storing toxins that your liver, kidneys, all that, the detox organs can't handle. So address the toxicity in your life. Cleaner products. Start with cosmetics, beauty products, things that go on your skin, on your hair. If you can't read something on the label, or some word doesn't make sense to you, it's probably not good for you. So, I mean, it's pretty, there's nuance to that, because there's a lot of science terms that are kind of funky. So there are some things that may look like they're bad, but they're not, and vice versa. But really striving to clean up your environment can work wonders for tough fat loss.
I think the environment's a great point, because let's say you are 40, right? Think about the foods that you were eating and the environment that you were in when you were 20, right? 20 years, a lot of shit's happened in 20 years. That can definitely affect weight loss, muscle gain, mood, all that other stuff that plays into everything else, right? So, I mean, I think just having a good hold on what's happened now in modern day society, where you need to get your food, where you need to, like what you need to eat your food out of, right? Like some of the things are so important. How you, like you said, soaps, right? Toothpaste. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff that can be absorbed into your body is stuff that I think about all the time. Sunscreen. Let's not get into the weeds, right? But like, I know, I'm sorry.
Easy. Another Instagram live.
I know. But seriously, all of these things have gotten worse over time, and it's it's obvious as to why we're struggling with certain issues, whether it's lower testosterone, whether it's increased risk of depression, or whatever, right? Like there's a multitude of things that thyroid issues are going through the roof right now, just because of all of the, like you said, environmental toxins and exposure to all these chemicals. So
and there's some people who are just better. They're just naturally, some genetic predisposition, some of it's just the person's body. They're just better detoxers. Could be body type related, could be blood type related. Like there's a lot of factors there at play, but some people are just more efficient at detoxifying. So some people need a little more assistance. There are some genetic markers that are related to detoxification systems, and you can actually get tests for that. The nice thing about genetic tests, you only have to get it once. That's not going to change.
That's right.
So you can do that. So there are certain things out there, but you probably have a good idea if you're not a great detoxer. You don't sweat a ton. You don't maybe have regular bowel movements, things like that. Things tend to get backed up. You may get a lot of skin outbreaks, things like that. Those can be some indications. Just because you do sweat a lot doesn't make you a good detoxer. But you certainly do detox through sweat. And that's why saunas are great. So 4 main ways to detoxify the body: get junk out, get toxins out,
and great for cardio.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Poop, pee, breath, and sweat, right? I wouldn't expect you to poop a whole lot more, right? I hope you poop once, maybe twice a day, right? Some people say up to 3 times a day, but hey, we're not going to ask you to poop more. I don't want you to pee more. I really don't want you to hyperventilate all day. So the one we can leverage and do more of is sweating, right? So you can exercise, and some people argue me on that because, oh, you're not going to detox a ton because you're exercising, so you're going to be more sympathetic. We can talk about that all day. People should still exercise and try to sweat. I'm a big proponent of trying to chase a good sweat at least once a week in a workout. That's just a me thing. You don't have to sweat like crazy. Don't chase sweat during your workouts, but if you do it once a week, you could consider it like kind of like a detox workout. But sauna is going to be your best option because you can just relax in there. You can let your body get really, parasympathetic, rest and digest system, and sweat at the same time and just flush some stuff out.
I'm going to reel it back in quick to the athletic piece of that.
Ooh, all right. Reeling it back in.
You guys both know I'll talk about my dad a little bit. My dad he's 52, pretty good shape. He always has questions for me though about like he's running a 5K in July, wants to get faster as 5K. He trained for the CrossFit Open, didn't feel great about jumping, wanted to know how to jump better. And what I told him was that pretty much like, if you feel like your jumping ability is decreased, you got to jump a little bit more, right?
You got to do the thing.
Do the thing a little bit more frequently. Now he's running again. He wants to figure out how to get a faster 5K. I told him, just change your paces, add a little bit of variety into your runs and challenge yourself in different ways. And he started running a little bit quicker last week. And he was like, oh, I ran a little bit quicker, did some intervals. And he was like, when I was doing it, my legs felt shaky. And I just felt like so uncoordinated. And to me, I'm like, you probably need to do it more often.
Exactly.
So that way you feel a little bit more coordinated. And he's 52 and he still sets these goals for himself. And in terms of weight too, he'll fluctuate. Like I remember he's telling me he's 212 at one point, comes back down to 190. And how he does that is he just changes his protein intake, changes his diet up a little bit. He's just regimented about that stuff. So my biggest piece of advice to people who are in that age bracket is to, like Nick said, add some variety. And if you want to get better at something, do it, right? Like if you want to jump more, but dose it appropriately, add some more variation to that.
That was good bringing your dad up because that's a great example. Because I was going to say with the getting into your 40s, you already mentioned like things have changed. Yeah, you probably have kids, right? Or it doesn't mean you have kids, but if you are 40 and you want kids, there's a good chance you have them by then, right? For most people. So you're at a different point in your life where, it can be a little bit more challenging to be consistent with the exercise. Consistent with the nutrition. But Hayden, why don't you tell everybody how many kids your dad has?
6.
He's got 6 kids, and he's still figuring it out.
He looks amazing, by the way.
Yeah, so it's doable. Yes, we're not saying it's easy by any means, and Hayden's dad would be the first to tell you it's not. You have to carve out the time for yourself.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
He still works full time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like he finds the time for it.
Yeah.
And if he wants to get better at something, he does that exact thing. Like he's like, all right, I want to get better. I want to improve my bench press. So how am I going to do that? He's going to progress himself in the bench press, running, jumping, all that stuff. You just have to add it into your program. Just because you're in your 50s and even later, like Nick and I do the small group training here, and we have people who are in their late 50s and 60s sometimes come and see us, and they're still jumping, they're still moving fast, they're still moving heavy weight,
and oftentimes apprehensive when they first join, right? When they're jumping, they're like, whoa, I haven't jumped. They actually think back to it. Whoa, when was the last time I jumped? We joke with them all the time, like, hey, we're going to skip now. When was the last time you guys skipped? So it's a real thing, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be, the beauty of this stuff is you don't have to do it like honestly that much. Sprinkle it in every once in a while, like maintain the ability to do it. It's not something that needs to be done every day, right? If you skip today and 2 weeks later, your body's still going to remember how to skip, right? But if you go 20 years, that skip might feel kind of weird, right? You might not even be able to do it the right way. Your arms and legs might not go at the right times and all that kind of stuff. So just maintain that ability, and yes, the more intense things get, take sprinting for example. It's an intense movement. It requires not only coordination, but power, tendon stability and stiffness, all these facets. So because that is a more complex and higher output movement, you would need to do that one with a little bit more frequency than just like, I did it now, I'm going to do it 6 months later. No, you would probably have to, if you were going to go max speed, you would certainly have to do that weekly. But it's all relative, right? Like if I was going to skip, I could get away with skipping once a week, once every other week, something like that, where I just maintain the ability, right? If I'm talking getting up and down off the ground, I probably want to do that more frequently, right? Like that is something that is just quick and easy to do. I don't even need to put on my exercise clothes for that, my workout clothes. I can literally just be like, let me try to get on the ground. All right, let me get back up, not using my hands, that type of stuff. So there's levels to everything, in terms of frequency and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and I think you guys both nailed it. And the last point that I want to make with that as a father, and I know Nick can relate to this as well, and you can relate to it as a son that has an active father, where as a parent, especially as a new parent, they find it hard to prioritize training and nutrition because they feel guilty. It's like a selfish act that they have to take time out of their day to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But I think it's the exact opposite. I think it's the most selfless act, because if you're not strong and you're not healthy, then how are you going to help your kids? How are you going to be there for your spouse or whatever it needs to be, right? Like your dad maintained his health for so long, was able to take care of 6 kids, run a business, right? His business is healthy, his kids are healthy, and now he's trickled all of these behavioral patterns into you, and you're now going to carry that forward. Do you know what I'm saying? So like,
exactly.
I think it's the most selfless act. And for people that are like, no, it's so guilty. Like I can't leave my kids for an hour. Like my wife had a hard time with this in the beginning. Now she's a lot better with it because she can see the value of taking time for herself, because when she can be the best version of herself, she can be there and be present for her kids and be able to play with her kids and everything else too, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It's so important,
Yeah, and I mean, you can also do it in front of your kids, with your
1,000%.
kids. I do it all the time with my son Theo. Like he's almost 2 now, and he sees me work out all the time. With kettlebells and things like that. You could do it with simple equipment. And as to how much he's taking in at this point, who knows? But he's getting something, because you look at someone like Hayden who watched his dad do that. He was a Division I athlete. He's a really good athlete. So like, there's no doubt that played a role in his development athletically over the long haul. And I have no doubt that he's going to be like his dad at 52, doing the same types of things. So you can absolutely, get it done.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
And it'll look different for everybody. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
You got to find out what works for you, and but just try to keep some variety in there, and you have to, in order to stay athletic, you have to continue to do the athletic things.
That's right. All right, let's move on to another question. We got a couple more. We don't want to take up too much time, but
dude, we can go all night.
I know we probably could. People are probably having dinner right now. They're like, "Nah, screw this."
Yeah, they go on long. Do we have anyone
here?
On?
Yeah, we do.
No.
All right, so dynamic stretching or static stretching, which is the most beneficial and why? What's your answer? It depends.
Well, I mean, dynamic stretching is going to be a better bang for your buck,
No doubt.
without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to say that static stretching can't help, but in the context of, in my experiences, the context of when people are asking about it, I think it serves little to no value in that context. Most people are asking about it as it relates to around exercise. Like, when should I do it? And it's like, static stretching really provides you very, very little value in terms of preparing you for movement, athletics, sport.
If anything,
exercise.
can be more detrimental.
Yeah. I would say dynamic stretching is something that is a no-brainer, in my opinion. Is it necessary? That could be debated. Did our ancestors do a dynamic warm-up before they ran away from a saber-toothed tiger? Absolutely not. But they were also naturally moving about their environment because they had to. Now you can go to work or work from home and sit at a desk all morning and then go to exercise hours later. You should probably do some kind of dynamic warm-up, get the blood flowing, increase tissue temperature, all that kind of stuff. Static stretching, I'm fine if people want to do it at the end to cool down. I do actually think it can be great to stimulate recovery, because when we're talking, I just did, a strength training workout, right? So now I want to stimulate muscle growth or, strength improvements. I need to get my body that was just in this sympathetic fight or flight state to parasympathetic as fast as possible, so my body can do what it needs to do to make those adaptations. Static stretching for some people can get them there. For me, it doesn't get me there. I need to do some type of breathing exercise to get me there, because static stretching, I just get annoyed. I'll be like, and I'm just mad. Yeah, and I'm just mad that and it's like I feel stiff. It's like, okay, and and I'm really not inflexible. I would say average flexibility. I have, I think, adequate.
Adequate's a great word.
I think I have adequate flexibility.
I love the word.
But I don't feel like I get much out of static stretching, and I don't feel like it shifts me to parasympathetic the way that laying on the back, throwing my feet up on the bench, doing some deep breathing would. So I would opt for that.
Too, in terms of like, if I'm going on a long run, am I really going to do, I'm going to be out there for 45 minutes to an hour if I'm going on a long run. Am I really going to benefit from a dynamic warm-up? In my opinion, no. I just get out and I do some tempo work,
do
and
the thing,
some skips, and I just go do it, right?
That's right.
But if I was to get out of this chair right now, go outside and try to sprint 100 meters as fast as I could, I would most likely want to do a dynamic warm-up just to get my tissue warmed up and tissue prepped. And then on top of that, like shifting out of this sympathetic state to parasympathetic state, I opt in for more of like a mobility type of thing, right?
Like
where
a mobility flow type of
thing, where I'm
And
just
that's
kind of trying to
too.
reset myself and get back to that state that we want to be in. Static stretching, I just don't. If you like it and it works for you and you've enjoyed doing it for a long period of time, sure, keep doing it. But in terms of prepping for a certain movement, I'm not going to hang out at my end range flexibility because I just don't think
Another
it's
time I
beneficial.
think static stretching can be helpful for people is like before bed, for sure. Because if you are the type of person where you do get relaxed and you do calm down, before bed is a great time. You can make it part of the pre-bed routine. Like we mentioned before, it's not going to be, unless you're doing it like before a sport where you need some explosiveness, it's not necessarily going to be detrimental to anything, but it also may not improve anything for some people. It can certainly improve a little bit of that flexibility and for some range of motion if they're super, super stiff. But for a lot of people, it's just going to kind of be a net neutral a lot of times, so it serves more of that purpose on the winding down, shifting the body out of that fight or flight state. Would be what I'd say.
I'm in an internal
sure.
battle with this whole entire thing, and I could go on about it for too long.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Being in like as a sprinter, right? And like we always had to do a dynamic warm up as a team when we showed up to the event. I hated it. I hated running a couple laps, doing dynamic warm up, doing some static stretching as a team. It just totally took me out of the zone. And even when I would go do my dynamic warm up, it was so ingrained in my head that I had to do all these exercises. But I look back on it, and I probably would have dialed that back even more. Like I probably wouldn't have gone through my whole entire dynamic warm up before I got to actually sprint.
Yeah.
I would probably do less now. Yeah. And I don't know how that would exactly look, but I know that I would change it up completely now. I just think that
absolutely
there's certain ways, and especially when you're doing something fast, like prepping the nervous system versus prepping. I think prepping the tissue is important, but I think prepping the nervous system even before sporting events, like you're going to be moving for an hour and a half depending on what the sport is, right? So at some point you're going to feel better, but do we need to be 100% warm and have our heart rate up for 40 minutes before we go compete? I don't know if I can get behind it. And maybe there's something supporting that, but in terms of my opinion, I just think that there's ways to get warm for certain events.
Yeah. So don't feel like you have to do both. I do think there's value if you just got up at a sitting for a while for a dynamics warm up, but that could literally just be skipping some skipping variations. And if you're hearing us say skipping a lot, add skipping into your life. It's going to help.
Yep.
So
Chad even added it in.
Yeah, skipping is good for your tendons. It's good for your joints.
Skipping cardio? Is that what you mean?
Just skipping.
Skipping cardio.
I'm back on the cardio train though. I'm back on it.
But Hayden's he comes from a sport where the warm up is very integral to it. I played basketball where the warm up was, everyone does it, and even warm up's part of basketball. You do layup lines before the game, but everyone was different. Like I had teammates that they just sat on the bench there and they were just like, I'm just waiting for game time. They didn't do much at all. I was, and this was more for my dad. My dad was like, you gotta break a sweat before you start the game. So I'm like, all right, cool. He was a professional player. I'm gonna do it because it clearly worked, right? So I would get into this state of like a dripping sweat before the game, but I didn't have the best fuel tank, so I would a lot of times fatigue and have to come out decently early. So like, should I have been doing that? Probably not. But I did it my entire career. So.
Yeah, I think
you live and you learn.
Yeah, I don't think I can really add anything to that. I mean, you guys crushed them both. The only thing I can say is, in terms of like context, I think like you said, Nick, for most people nowadays, and for most people that are asking that question, it's like, what do I do before I work out? You know what I mean? And like Hayden said, do the thing. But
move like you're about to move.
Do something.
If you're gonna squat, maybe do some bodyweight squats.
Yeah.
So for
and
sure.
that's what we do here, right?
Yeah.
Like we're moving people in and out of positions. We don't have people hold positions. You know what I mean? It's just not super functional, So we want people to explore those. We want to, either down regulate or up regulate the nervous system. And that's the point of all of that. So just preparing yourself for the demand of whatever you're going to be
For
doing is the most important thing. So
basically just do some skips.
don't. Yeah, we try to overcomplicate everything. So that's basically
yeah, exactly. I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Everything
we do.
It's overcomplicated.
Yeah.
Um,
All right,
But-
case closed.
Case closed. Close.
We're gonna keep going.
Next thing.
We're
Next
gonna
thing.
keep
Next thing. You know what? One more thing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
All right, this one comes from a colleague. Actually, she's a chiropractor. Not going to mention her name, but it's a great question, and it's a question that I think most business owners could benefit from. The question is how to keep your employees happy, and she writes specifically in a cash-based model, and then kind of puts in like, what are your employer values, So I want to leave the floor open to you guys before I say anything.
oh
'Cause
man,
I want to know what makes you guys happy in a model like this.
Yeah,
I'm going to
for
start
sure.
this
As an
off with,
employee.
I'm not
For sure.
happy. I'm just kidding. I can't answer anything because I am so not happy.
Oh,
that's
awesome.
No, one of the big things for me is freedom. So the freedom to make my own decisions, do things the way I want to do them, because that's how I see it, or how it works for me, or what makes the most sense to me. And not having this situation where it's like, oh no, we got to do it this way. We have to do it this way because this is what works, or this is the most efficient way, or whatever. So that's certainly been one of the big ones, that autonomy, so that freedom to kind of do those things. And then I think another big one that's been huge for me, because it's gotten me into, it really got me into my we'll call this, I'll put air quotes on this specialty, because I always talk about how specialties are like, oh, this is the specialist.
It's definitely special.
Yeah, it's specialist. But my specialties, and specialty, when I'm saying I'm referring to it, it's my passions, the things I really enjoy working with, the things I have, more reps at. So in terms of, for me, it's the feet and foot issues, and then the functional medicine side of stuff. And it's always been an environment here for me where I've had not only the ability to pursue those things, but I've been encouraged to pursue the things that I'm passionate about. So I think those are probably like the two big ones for me. The like numerous weeks of paid time off is great. I'm just kidding. No, I'm joking. But yeah, like the flexibility too, though, like now having a child too, where stuff pops up, and just being flexible, and part of I played basketball where you're on rosters of typically 12 to 15, right? Like 15 max usually. So I was always part of smaller teams, tight knit teams. And that was always something that I pursued in the working world. I wanted to be part of a smaller team. And sometimes within the smaller team, it can be really hard to be flexible because, well, all these duties are spread amongst so fewer people. But, you've figured out a way to still maintain that flexibility where, hey, if something family does pop up, we'll figure it out. We'll take care of it. We all got each other's backs. So I've always loved that too. Those are probably my top three for sure.
Yeah.
But I hate it. I'm miserable.
Yeah, I think, we just had a conversation.
Yeah, we
had
did.
a conversation. My year was last month.
Yeah.
I think at this point,
Yeah.
my full year here was last month. And I think one of the things I said is just having an open line of communication with Chad and with Nick, I think is super important for me, especially as a new grad. I would have questions and they'd always be answered appropriately, without even much, like, I guess second guessing going on. Like if I had an idea or if I had something that I wanted to do, it was always, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. Right. It wasn't like, no, that doesn't really make much sense. That really doesn't vie with what we do here. Like I've been able to bring what I think is important. And I think that I haven't had that like looked at in a bad way once. And I really appreciate that. So I think that kind of adds to what Nick says about just the flexibility and being able to do what I want to do and what I think is valuable. And then also I think it's also a respect thing, like me coming in here as a new PT and having Chad and Nick be just like very open to my ideas and what I do on a daily basis, I think has been super important to me. And like we shoot shit with each other all the time, right? So like we have this relationship too where yes, Chad is my boss. I do whatever is expected of me, and I know that I have these roles and responsibility, but nobody's ever like checking in on me behind my back and like making sure I'm doing things when I'm supposed to be doing them and making sure that I'm getting things done when I need to be doing them, right? It's kind of one of these things that we have such a good relationship where they trust me, I trust them, and things just get done. So I think that's super important to me. And then also, I mean, this facility is fantastic. So investing in your facility, I think, keeps your employees so happy because we have a time allotted in our day where we can train, get our notes done, go market, do certain things, and that's budgeted in our schedules for us. And I think that's an amazing thing where we have access to everything we need in here, so we don't need to go anywhere else really. So I think that's a huge thing.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean,
and they do the same thing in prison where they give you everything you need.
23 and 1.
Yeah, it's 7:07 right now. No, I'm just kidding.
But see, that's the
fun.
point,
We're
right?
having
Like
fun.
it's 7 past 7. These guys could be like, you know what? I'm clocked out. Let's
7
go
o'clock,
home.
dude. We're out of here.
Yep. So, and that's what I love about this, right? Like it's everybody, and this was strategically in place for a reason. Like I hired you, and I hired you on purpose because I knew that you were going to fit the model. You know what I mean? And I'm not looking for a 9-to-5er, you know. And if somebody is looking for that, a place like this is not the place. You know what I mean? They need to go find a place where they can be a mediocre physical therapist or whatever, right? And just do their 9-to-5 and collect their paycheck. Honestly,
or whatever.
You know what I mean? Like
we don't do that here.
Yeah.
It's like they went to physical therapy school, but hey, you're not cut out for it, man. Go do your 9-to-5, and you know.
No, but so like, and that's the big thing for me, right? Like you were like, hey man, I want to dive into this functional medicine. I'm like, cool. Let's do that because nobody's doing that shit. That looks cool, you know.
Yeah.
Let's do that because I know whatever you invest your time in, you're going to be great at it, and I know you're the same way. So it's. In terms of like my values here at ProForm, it's basically like I want everybody to be happy and healthy. And how do we accomplish that, right? Like how do we build an amazing facility that can benefit the community? Well, the facility can be cool, right? But if you don't have the staff to back up the facility and make the facility what it is, the facility ain't worth shit. You know what I mean? So, and that's the reason.
Hey, Mother's Day.
It ain't worth a damn. So it ain't worth poop. Yeah, okay. Poop is a good one.
It ain't worth dookie.
So where we can have a small clinic like this, because the whole point is to not have corporate PT where you have quotas, you have like to meet these the unrealistic expectations of saying, well, I got to do my notes all this time. I got to, we got to worry about if we're going to get approved for insurance. We got to, and all this other stuff. It's not like that. It's like, hey, are the patients happy? Is the customer service being executed? And if so, great. If we're getting results and everybody's happy, that's honestly all I care about. You know what I mean? And I know that's happening. So to create a facility like this where you can practice the way you want, but still have an environment where everybody continue to grow and have opportunity is the environment that I think that for me, because I've been there, most employees appreciate, where it's like, hey man, I don't need you to tell me how to treat. I went to school too. I know how to do that. But if I want to learn, you know what I mean? And I want to be better at what I do in my craft, right?
Yeah.
That's understandable. But I'm not going to sit here and say, no, you can't treat like that. That's not how we do this here. You know what I mean? And I would never do that unless it's unsafe. You know what I mean? So,
unless like you're making people pass out with dry needles.
That did happen recently.
But yeah, also,
that's another podcast for today.
I think other things too, like if something needs to get done, like it gets done. Like I remember when I was getting like you don't get this anywhere else. Like I was going to take my dry needling course. I think within the next I walked into the clinic. Chad was like, hey, what do we want to do? We were either going to go to the CSM, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
We're either going to go there or you're like, hey, do you want to do dry needling? I'm like, sure, let's do it. Within the next hour, it was booked. It was done. Like I was done. And I already had everything organized. Like I was going in like the next week.
Yeah.
And we made it work in my schedule and we had that done, right? So when something needs to get done, like Chad takes care of it, which is like the best thing ever. So
Absolutely.
they don't have to wait, don't have to jump through hoops and be like, hey, well, technically you're not approved for your continuing education credits yet. Like that stuff is like just done. Like I know people have to wait a year and a half to get their continuing ed, right?
No.
Yeah.
So
Because that's not benefiting not only your patients, but it's not benefiting the business either.
Yeah.
Like it's just a bad move, I mean, there's always going to be like Nick is very marketable. Like I made this motherfucker this guy very marketable. You know what I mean?
That was a bad one. Sorry, Karen. You know what? That was a bad one. Shit is okay.
Man, Mother's Day, I'm really screwing this up. I'm going to have to get some extra flowers.
Mother effer for Mother's Day weekend. Are you kidding me?
we can bleep out.
It's not the weekend yet, though. It's not the weekend
Yeah,
yet.
but it's the week of, man. Moms get a whole week. Dads get a day. All right? Everyone knows that.
But I think that's the biggest piece of scarcity that employers have. It's like, well, I don't want to give him too much because then he could just go and do his own thing. Shit, anybody can do that. You know what I mean? Like, but if I don't make him better at what he does, then it's not going to make the business better either. You know what I mean? So it's a risk, right? But I think the only way that you can actually get around that is to create opportunity, create appreciation, and say, hey, listen, this is the growth that we can have here, and this is the environment and the vision that we have, and everybody's a part of that vision. You know what I mean? Because if Nick just thinks he's just working for himself, or you just think you're just working for yourself, and you're like, shit, if I'm just going to get all these patients, I'll just open up my own place. Why wouldn't you just do that? You know what I mean? Because that's how I felt. You know what I mean? I was treating all these people, and I got no appreciation for it. I got shitty bonuses.
It's true.
Like it was not beneficial for me. You know what I mean? And I didn't feel it. And if I had felt it, I tell this to Nick all the time. I was like, man, if I walked into a place like this, I'd still be working here. You know what I mean? Like I would have no reason to go anywhere else and do my own thing. I really wouldn't.
It's so true.
And the values of just like, hey, we block out this time and, everybody can do whatever they want. Like, Hayden can go run 10 miles. Nick can do his explosive shit upstairs and I can go to the gym and work out. You know what I mean? Everybody's happy. Everybody stays healthy, and everybody comes energized for the second half. You know what I mean? Right. And that's what it's all about, and when you have people that all can work together like that, same with Carissa at the front desk and Taylor, like everybody's on the same page.
Taylor. Oh my gosh. No,
I know Taylor.
She's coming back.
She's coming back
today.
She's feeling a little overwhelmed.
Oh, Tay, it's okay. We got you.
Right, Tay.
We got you. We got your back. We're here for you. We'll make it happen.
So if I had to give one piece of advice to employers that might be watching this, that have employees, it's fucking appreciate your employees. You know what I mean? Show appreciation. Show appreciation.
This guy.
You know what I mean?
We can't.
And it doesn't always.
I'm working at it. I'm working on it. I've been working on it for 7 years. We're trying.
Oh. This is in the rack, baby. We gotta say what we gotta say.
That's right. This is a safe space.
What happens in the rack stays in the rack. You know what I'm saying?
In culmination, it's growth mindset over a fixed mindset.
That's right. No doubt.
For sure.
Right there.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
So
we got more questions?
I think we do. I think we do. Let's
It's the only way to get you to stop swearing is to go to the next question.
All right,
Jeez.
Yeah, no. It's like you and feet.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. Another cardio question, actually. Cardio after 40.
All right. Let's clear the air
How
on cardio.
beneficial is it really?
Let's clear the air on cardio.
I mean, are you asking me?
Cardio.
Or are you asking Nick?
Cardio implies, in my opinion, when people say cardio, that implies steady state. I prefer the word conditioning, which would imply it would encompass all of it. So steady state is just one branch. When people talk steady state, they're talking the longer duration, steady heart rate. Heart rate that's not near the max. Hayden and I were talking about this earlier today. We both have the problem of getting way too close to our max all the time because we just love to just push the limits,
push the boundaries.
We love to overtrain. So cardio, in my opinion, would imply something steady state. We do want to maintain conditioning throughout the lifespan, without a doubt. We want to maintain some aerobic capacity, which would be more of the cardio when people are talking about cardio. We also want to maintain the anaerobic ability, which would, is under that umbrella is the weightlifting, the strength training typically falls more on the anaerobic side. But in terms of conditioning, I do think it's worthwhile to mix in both steady state and the higher intensity stuff. That being said, I think people probably do it way too much, right? I think you guys would agree with that.
I agree with that.
I don't think in the sense of what we're talking about, where cardio is more of that steady state, zone 2, maybe creeping into zone 3, but a steady heart rate. People will do that like 6 days a week. You don't need it 6 days a week. Let me just say that right now. I would say a 2 days a week, probably good. Even just throughout the lifespan. If you are younger and you do a sport, that is that, right? Like you run cross country or something like that, then yeah, you probably have to do it more than 2 days a week. But in terms of just health benefits, 2 days a week probably fine. If you want to do 3, fine. If you enjoy that stuff, great, you could do it more, but don't do it at the expense of the other stuff. Spend some time doing the weight training, the weightlifting. Spend some time doing something, whether it's a HIIT workout or you enjoy sprints, so go sprint where it's going to be more the max effort, high heart rate spikes way up, or a hill workout, interval workout, track workout, stuff like that. So those types of things fall in the conditioning realm, but we want to have, levels to it, right? So you can just simply think of things as like low intensity, moderate intensity, high intensity in terms of the conditioning. And you can structure that in a way where you have at least one of those per week. Low intensity people will typically do a little bit more frequently. So if you had, 2 of those, then 1 of each of the others, or if you worked out every day or did conditioning every day, you'd have 2, 2, 2, that kind of thing. Just depends on the person, depends what your goals are, depends what you're after. But in terms of just general health, people probably do it way too much.
I think
Agreed.
you said that perfectly. I think the steady state work gets overdone. I forget who it was, and I forget what I was listening to, but they were like, they were pretty much saying, okay, steady state is done too frequently. If you need to challenge your heart rate, and if you're just trying to stay fit, go do something really hard for 2 to 5 minutes, right? Get your heart rate elevated to near your max and call it at that, right?
Yeah.
As long as we're creating some separation between that steady state and towards our zone 4, zone 5 stuff once or twice throughout the week, I think that's plenty of cardiovascular benefit there.
Yeah.
Just stressing the heart rate through its zones
And
occasionally. Doesn't need to be every day, right? You don't need to be like Nick and I who do everything in zone 4, zone 5.
we can't freaking get zone 2. We can't do zone 2. We both can't. It's like we just go right through zone 2 every time. Just blow through it.
Don't even hit zone 2.
I hate zone 2 so much.
Skip right over it.
But as it relates to the age thing, I would argue that you probably want to prioritize the steady state, the zone 2 type cardio less as you get older, in my opinion. Not to say you still shouldn't do it, but at certain points in your life, especially probably through that like 40 age range when kids are getting into more of the recreational activities, that type of stuff. So you probably have less time. I would prioritize more of the strength training, higher intensity type stuff, because as we get older, 40 on, we're losing muscle at a faster, like more accelerated rate. So in terms of the time you have, what's going to give you the best bang for your buck? Probably the more high intensity, that type of stuff. And the nice thing about that is, like, for the max benefits of the steady state cardiovascular, the time needs to be longer versus you can get benefits from a high intensity workout in a short amount of time.
Go hit the bike as hard as you can for 2 minutes.
In terms of the benefits, like, you don't need as much time. So when people talk about, I don't have enough time for it, now you got enough time for that. So I would say that you want to put the more eggs in that basket as you get older, decades go on, that kind of thing. But sprinkle it in there somewhere. For some people, zone 2 is just a fast walk. So, hey, it is a good reason to measure your heart rate at some point. You don't have to do it all the time, but you can do it with, certain watches. Chad's got the Garmin. They both have the Garmin now, right? Apple Watches. You can do it with chest strap heart rate monitors. You can, there's so many devices that you can do it. Measure your heart rate so you see what's happening there and you see how you feel at a certain heart rate, because you may think your heart rate's super low, but it actually may be higher than you think, or vice versa. So I think there's a ton of value in measuring it too, because really the zones and the type of cardio is based on your heart rate.
Yeah.
I
would agree.
Well, I shouldn't say totally based on your heart rate, because
yeah.
There's more nuance to that. I'm not that stupid, all right?
No, you're not.
It's consistent with your
I
heart
think
rate.
everybody knows that you're not stupid by now.
It's consistent with your heart rate.
Yeah, and I knock on cardio all the time, but I know the importance of cardio. I'm actually back into it.
He knows the importance of conditioning.
Correct. Conditioning. Thank you very much.
Just trying to, again, clear the air. It's conditioning, cardio.
That's a great point. It's a great point. But nobody knows what conditioning is when you say it like that.
I know, but it also
But you're
sounds
right.
cooler. Cardio just sounds like...
Conditioning to me sounds like there's some strength component involved. You know what I mean? Which is not wrong.
Yeah.
It's not wrong.
Yeah.
But they don't
I get
associate that with cardio. So, like,
that.
when you say cardio, it's like, saying... Instead of saying, like, somebody has patellofemoral opinion, it's like, dude, my fucking knee hurts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to keep it simple for the people.
There is a
You know what I'm saying?
there.
So, like, I understand what you're saying, and I knock on cardio all the time, but I
I hear you.
Deep down inside, I know the importance of cardio because I know it can be very, very beneficial for some more than others, and all depending on
It's specific. That's all.
on the goals. Absolutely. I don't have any other questions as of right now, and I think we're approaching on an hour. So
Yeah, I mean, we were gonna talk about some other things if we needed to fill time, but we don't need to fill time.
I knew we weren't going to have to fill time, not with this crew. So, no, if everybody likes what we're doing here with the live stuff and the questions, then let us know because we'd love to do this more.
Yeah, if you guys like it, we'll work more. It's cool.
These guys would be happy to donate more of their time.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we like this stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just next time we might go to someone's house and do it so we can chill with feet up, maybe maybe drink some protein shakes because we don't really drink a ton of alcohol.
No.
Maybe tequila soda. I would drink tequila soda if you guys want to drink tequila soda together.
I would do a tequila soda.
I would love to see Chad drink tequila soda.
I would do a Tito's and soda, but
Yeah, I know you don't like tequila. That's why
I'm not a tequila
I would
guy.
love Chad to drink tequila. I've seen him drink
I'm not an
tequila
alcohol
once.
guy much.
I've seen Chad drink tequila once. It was at the Patriots game.
Yeah, that's one time. Only because I
It
had
was
to.
fun. It was fun.
It was forced.
It was forced.
Yeah, it was forced. And then
Carissa forced me.
he had to give Carissa $200 because you won. Yeah.
I lost a lot that day.
Yeah.
I lost my dignity and some change.
And some change.
So
K-Dog just always winning. Always winning.
Always.
Yeah.
So if everybody likes this, let us know. We'd be happy to do this again in the future. I think this is fun. Other than that, I'm going to close out the episode.
Yeah.
So, I think
See ya.
we got a John Morrow coming up soon with the workshop.
Yep.
We should mention
Next
that.
month, beginning
Next
of the month, beginning of June.
What's that going to be on? Really
That
quick?
is on allergies. So we're
Yes.
gonna John, if people don't know, is a natural pharmacist. So conventional pharmacists turn to more holistic herbal pharmacists. So him and I will be talking together. So if you want to come to that, it would be really, really cool, really insightful. But I will forewarn you, John and I tend to go long.
Yeah, bring a
So,
sleeping bag.
Yeah, we tend to go long. But we will answer all your
Bring your
questions. We will talk all herbal remedies, all natural remedies for things like allergies and, histamine issues and that type of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. Thanks,
Sweet.
guys.
Sweet
All
deal.
right, let's go home and
Later.
have some protein.
Love it.
Thank you for joining us in the rack this week. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. You can also find us online at ProFormPTMA.com or on social media at ProFormPTMA. And remember, if you train inside the rack, you better be thinking outside the rack.